What's up, everybody? You're now tuned in to StarCHaser Central, a podcast about Charles Hamilton music, moments, and everything in between. I'm Slick Braxton.
And I am Mike D. Jackson. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to let me open this now. It's been a while since we had this on the show, or I had this on the show.
Since
And I,
we, since we is crazy.
I know, I know. My bad. My bad. You know what's crazy? Seriously. Your shirt, I don't know where the fuck that shit came from, but like it was a I want to say yellow jacket. It might have been like a wasp. Either way, there was one in the house and I had to kill that thing. Had to kill him. So I was like, nah, you're not going, fuck out of here. So
I guess now you have the energy to pod, I guess.
yeah, I'm ready to go because it was just disrespectful being in the house. Like you were not invited in here, So now I gotta take it out on you. I gotta take it out on the Star Chasers. No, it's cool. I'm not going to literally. I got two napkins of them. I'm not gonna clap loud for the microphone, but boy
Damn,
got clapped.
damn. I
Pause.
thought you were gonna do it.
I'm.
I thought you no. I thought you were gonna do it. I thought you were gonna go. I gotta take it out on you. I gotta take it out on the fans, the Star Chasers. And after I'm done with them, we want the gold sucker Hulk Hogan.
Nah. I'm not gonna. Nah, I'm cool on that. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty chill. I'm a chill out.
You doing all right, man? How you doing?
Yeah, man. Doing good. Today's been a good day so far. You already know this is like my day off. Had a enjoyable weekend. Have fun this weekend. How about yourself? How you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. Coming off Mother's Day, what you call it. Obviously, with you and your mom or whatever, and how that I know that's kind of a rough time for you sometimes, throughout the year, or whatever. So thinking of you or always during that time. Um,
Not only that, also Charles. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
for sure.
it's one of those things where I actually I mean I know we're not friends on Facebook. We're friends on other stuff, but I
Mm.
actually made a post about that because to be honest, just to sidebar real quick. Um, I remember when I was at work yesterday, and someone did say Happy Mother's Day. When I was younger, I'll be honest, man. I used to be the type of person that had to be like, my mom's dead or da 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 whatever. Because like, I'm like,
Mm.
you telling me that, even though you don't know my life or whatever, but I felt a certain way. So I'm like, you know what? It's like you're trying to embarrass me. So I'm gonna embarrass
Mm.
you, and I'm gonna make it real fucking awkward. And then I realized I'm like, bro, like these people don't know your life. They're trying to be respectful and whatnot, whatever.
Mm.
And it took me a long time to like get to that point, you know what I mean? And everyone's journey is different. So I will say this, whatever. I can handle that a lot better, but there's other people, like one of my cousins, he's like still dealing with losing his mom. It's only been like a few years. So I
Mm.
would say to anyone, if you're going to say Happy Mother's Day, Father's Day, or anything like that, I know it sounds crazy, but just be careful with saying it because I know some of those people, they feel that way now, how I used to feel,
Mm.
so just be careful, you know what I mean? Just you might not want to mention it. Unless if you don't know the person's status of their mom or father or whoever, I'd probably say just don't mention it. Just say have a good day. So
Yeah. I always just say it because, I think a lot of people like to focus just on like the mothers that are here or whatever, right? But they're like all different type of mothers, like mothers who lost a child through lost a child during like the pregnancy status, or like you in your case, their mother isn't around anymore. So I just like to encompass everybody, 'cause just because like your mother's not around or like you missed out on being a mom, um, it shouldn't like the day shouldn't still have some type of meaning to you because at one point you did, you were supposed to be a mom or you did have a mom. So I just like to kind of encompass that all together, except for the people with fur babies. I don't, I don't mean y'all. Uh, but on another side note, it did look like you had a good time this weekend. Some of the stories I saw, you know what I mean?
yeah, definitely had a good time. It was one of those things where that was planned, and yeah, long story short, I would say there was a plan in action, and it went through smoothly. So that's it. So I enjoyed myself, and hope everyone else did too.
For sure. We are back today, man. About to discuss another Charles Hamilton tape. This time we are going to 2016, and we are reviewing When Razor Met Wrist.
Yes, sir. When Razor met Risk. So we briefly mentioned this on a previous episode. This tape came out March 13th of 2016. This tape came out the same time as The Bite. And another project that we talked about, that came out 2 months before that in January was Loud and Wrong. So these are all around the same area, same era, same time. Um, if I remember, we were talking about it before, these projects came out because Charles still didn't come out with his label debut on
Hmm.
Republic. He still didn't come out with his album yet, Hamilton Charles. So Charles was dropping projects to be like, all right, well, since I'm not dropping anything right now that's on the major label, let me do some side stuff to like let the fans know I'm still with a deal. I still got music going on. I still want to provide for y'all. So here's some stuff to tide you over. And I found a few things when we talked about the bite, a few things about Loud and Wrong, but really nothing about When Razor Met Wrist, just that it came out the same time as the bite. So I looked into it, trying to see if there's anything, any type of like talk about it. Nothing. I wanted to see if there's any fans that might have talked about it at the time when it came out. I really didn't see anything about that.
Hmm.
Also kind of hard these days because when you're trying to type in When Razor Met Wrist, I'm pretty sure most social media sites are like, what is that?
Hmm.
I can't remember which one it is, but it might be Facebook, where if you type in anything similar to like that sounds like harm, they'll instantly send you this message saying, well, I think it might be Google too. It's like the 1-800 number for, the hotline. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so this isn't going to go great. So, but we do know it came out when Charles was still on Republic and, still just trying to get some music out there for the people.
Yeah. I when I found out that information about the bite, I was like, wow, what I couldn't have thought of two different type of projects at the same time because this project is so vastly different from the bite. It's kind of weird that they both dropped the same day. Um, do you remember your first time checking this project out?
Honestly, this has to be my first time. This past weekend that just happened. Never I don't know if I really even heard of it then. Of course, I remember hearing about the bite, hearing about like Loud and Wrong when they came out in that era. Maybe I seen like some of those blog postings or maybe like on the website saying, "Oh, Charles is dropping these projects," and trying to, just give himself some fanfare, make sure the fans understand what's going on. But no, like when I went to go listen to these projects, I can't even say, "Oh, well, I remember this song. This one sounds kind of familiar." No. So, first time. What about you?
Same boat. This is my first time checking this one out. It's funny because, like I said, the bite was kind of one of my entry points, kind of back into like following Charles's music. Around the time. I guess really it was the Republic deal itself, but the bite was kind of like the one that I remember specifically during that time period. So I'm not even sure how I missed the. I probably didn't know the blog at that time and what it was. I don't know if it was still in Hamilton at the time, but somehow I stumbled upon the bite, but never stumbled upon this. So yeah, this is my first time checking this out, and it was definitely an interesting listen. And I deployed one of my favorite techniques when it comes to reviewing this tape, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Definitely. When you spoke about the blog, I'm not sure what blog Charles was on at the time, but I can definitely tell you there was probably little to no blog entries when he was signed to Republic. We talked about it saying Charles said it before where he's like, hey, while I was on Republic, they told me I can't mention Dilla, Sega, some of the stuff that they consider left. So I'm assuming, I won't say they told him that he couldn't blog, but they probably were like, it's best not to because not only if he were mentioned something that could just make people confused or throw them off. Maybe let's say if he had any, how most artists are, they get on social media when they're frustrated with their label, their deal, and a lot of record labels don't like that. Like if you're
Mhm.
just like, hey man, they're not using me, they're shelving me, or this is bullshit. I want to, perform for the people, whatever the case is. They're going to be like, can you not? It's like, but that's what you're doing. So
Yeah.
it's probably one of those deals where it's like, he had to like not blog as much or at all, regardless of how he felt. So he's like, I'll just keep it to myself. Or maybe he had a private blog that he could type his emotions out on and be like, all right, well, they won't find this because I'm just not going to publicly post it.
Uh, When Raising at Risk has 8 total songs. Let's talk about the cover. And this is unique because it technically doesn't have when Razor met Risk on the title, and that's probably for a good reason, depending on what you're thinking as far as his time on Republic. But what do you think about this? I guess this cover and this picture that Charles is on here.
So the cover, I want to say, I don't know who made it, but I have this app, PixArt. So like sometimes when I edit my own photos and whatnot, and I like the filter if it is the filter from PixArt
Mm-hmm.
because you can take a picture, usually if it's something like just of a certain size,
Mm-hmm.
then you could like put it within the filter where it acts like it's an old Polaroid. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
looks like to me. Either way, like a regular picture, like the Polaroid thing is a throwback, so it's always cool to, do something like that. Um, it's just a regular picture of Charles probably backstage somewhere, while he was about to perform or about to go on stage or something. So it's a regular, picture. If we're just going by that, I'm like, I like the picture. It's cool. Like you said, it doesn't really have anything symbolism wise of when Razor met Risk, same time. We know why. It's one of the things you probably wouldn't want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
especially if Republic's having a hard time trying to market Charles, and they're kind of like, well, we're trying to figure out who this Charles Hamilton person is,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes on the internet and he's like, oh, well, this project is called When Razor Miss, and then you see a lot of blood and gore. They're like, okay, some people are going to be grossed out, some people are going to be like uninterested. So this is probably the tame and okay approach where it's like, oh, that's fine. This isn't like the old days of Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis where it's like, oh, we're not going to put the blood code in, so it's just sweat coming out or whatever.
Sega had the blood, right? Sega had the blood, and Nintendo had the sweat, and that's
So
why they were hype about it.
so Sega did have the blood, but at the same time, you had to put the blood code in to get the blood. If you didn't put it in,
Hmm.
then you wouldn't have it. Nintendo didn't have it at all. There was no code to put in, nothing. They're just like, nope, this is just going to be censored, and then the fatalities were going to be completely different. I want to say like Johnny Cage, instead of him doing like the head uppercut, he just did like the little shadow kick and then just kicked him off the screen, which is crazy. It's like, oh, I just kicked you off the screen. No one can see you now. That's my fatality.
Genesis, that's probably where what you call it came from. The Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Yep. Well, that and other things too. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, as far as me, it's a good picture. I just, obviously with the title of the tape, it's kind of difficult to nail that symbolism. So my alternate thought process with this is I feel like this, if you take this picture, you put it in like a manila folder, and in that manila folder you have Hamilton Charles at the top. That should have been the cover for this for Hamilton Charles. Because that's what I always thought it was supposed to be, right? It was supposed to be like, oh, this is the folder of Hamilton Charles. Like, who is this guy? And I always felt like, oh, the symbolism is gonna be, oh, it's gonna be like a folder of him, like details about him or whatever. And then like the picture should have been like it should have been open folder, the picture out there, and then Hamilton Charles somewhere on the cover. I feel like that's what this should have been. That's where this picture could have been used versus here and versus what we got as far as the Hamilton Charles cover. So it's a
not
decent
not
cover, but I just wish it was used for the album.
yeah. Not only that, that was a really good idea because, like we just said earlier, Republic. I would say Interscope had an idea, but Republic definitely didn't really have an idea of like who Charles is, who he
Hmm.
was, and also Charles might not have understood how to market himself. But
Hmm.
that would have been a really good idea, like for that album, if it or for some of these projects. Okay, it's this folder, and it's pictures of him, and it's like, well, who is he? And then the album could have been like track listings of songs and being like, okay, this is who I am as a person. This is what I love to do. This is, and then it's kind of like, oh, at that the last song could have been like it could have been like a detective thing where it's like there's like a narrator in the background trying to figure out who Charles is, and then
Hmm.
you get a breakdown of who he is throughout these songs. But that's neither here or there. That's our head canon.
Right. We could have done a better job marketing Charles at the time. So let's get to it, man. Let's start off with track number one, which I just had up and now it is gone. Here we go. Somebody else.
Right. So I remember I told you when I first heard this, I'm like, wait a minute. I can tell you the beat's familiar. I know the beat's familiar. So I'm like, wait a minute. Uh, so first time I heard this beat, was it's actually a 50 Cent beat. I mean, I'm guessing it's made by Dr. Dre, but 50 Cent beat In the Hood. I remember hearing it on a mixtape back then in like 2003 or something like that. And this wasn't on the album, but I think when I went to go look back, it might be on the special edition if you go on Spotify or Apple Music, but
Hmm.
In the Hood, I remember just you hear the pianos come in, it's a hard beat, and 50 did his thing on it because it's like, oh man, like it just has that like you want a meme of that. So when Charles gets on the song, I'm like, okay, I already know the original. So Charles, you gotta come with it. In the beginning, his ad libs, I'm like, okay, I think he already knows he knows the assignment. He's like, I got that ear, boy. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, okay, he's about to get trying rough and tough on here. Um, I could say this. It sounds like Charles is trying to go for broke on the verses, but then something stops him. I don't know if it's like maybe he didn't want to like say something wrong or he was trying to be
Hmm.
too cautious or whatever. He has some wordplay on here for the verses. To me, the hook's off. Um, Charles does some singing on the hook. I'm not saying it's like bad singing, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't from the verses of him, trying to do some wordplay and trying to be tricky and meticulous and all that, whatever. And then he goes to singing and he's saying, I should treat her like somebody else. In my head, it's talking about the maybe music or the rap game. Then okay,
Hmm.
I guess maybe that's what he's going for. But if he's just talking about like a random woman, it's like, okay, it doesn't make sense. You're talking about, how you're trying to prove to everybody that you're top five, you're the number one guy, or you're someone that people have slept on, but then you're singing about her wanting to be somebody else. It's like doesn't make sense. And overall, with me hearing the original song and then hearing Charles's version is I don't think he brought enough to it. So it's one of those things where I'm like, overall songs, it's not bad. But for me, I'm like, I would infinitely listen to the original version. Like this song's gonna make me be like, well, I'd rather just listen to 50 Cent's version. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, this is kind of a song that you kind of have to be very menacing to. I don't know if some of our younger viewers understand who 50 Cent was in 2003. I think that they see the guy now and they think, oh, he's a troll guy, and that is accurate. In 2003, he was a troll guy, but just a little bit more scarier. So it's like it's a little different. So you gotta come with you kind of gotta have that gangster gutter, very something bad's gonna happen to you very soon if you keep messing with me type of vibe. And I don't know. Charles has never been that type of guy. He can have it. His menacing is different. It's more like a darker menacing, not like a physical harm thing, but like a more of a, uh, not pain driven, but like it pulls on the emotions, right? That he's trying to drag you down the hill. That's the type of medicine that he has. And I think because of the Republic stuff and not trying to mess that deal up, and he doesn't have the album yet. I think he was trying to brace himself so he doesn't have another Interscope type of situation, which is, that's fine. The hook, right? If like I'm like you, if you're talking about music, sure, it's fine. I think it's still kind of a doesn't match the energy. Um, but if you take the time to just think about like if it's just like a random woman or like a woman on the track, and then you listen to the rest of the songs, and you realize he's doing an ode to Dr. Dre. And then you start to listen to the hook one more time where you talk about I'll beat her like somebody help. Then you think about Dr. Dre's backstory and his history. It just kind of messes with your mind a little bit. I know that's not what he means, probably. I don't know that for sure. I'm just playing bail game. But it can kind of get kind of dicey. And that's all I'm saying with it. Um, and with the hook, man, we'll be talking about it a little bit more, pretty much the entire tape. The singing, man. It's just like, it's a choice that he makes to do it, but there's no variety with the hooks. And we'll talk about it more. But I'll say this: it definitely sets the table for the team.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I didn't even really think about the whole thing with Dr. Dre's history with women and all that. I didn't want to even speak on that because obviously Charles later on has his own situation that, but we know we're not going to talk about that because that's pre before that. So in my head, I was like, I don't think he was trying to do that.
Mhm.
I will say if you're just like looking at the instrumental and for people that haven't heard the original song, you
Mm,
hear the piano keys and all that. So it kind of has like a slick and slide groove, you know. So I
mm,
think that's what Charles is trying to do, especially on the hook, you know. But it's one of those things where I think it really only works if people haven't heard the original. So, like, let's say some of these Star Chasers, especially the newer ones, if they're not familiar with 50 Cent's music, then it could easily be like, oh, okay, you know, I really like this beat. But then,
mm,
like I said, me being older, us being older, it's like, nah, he didn't do better than the original. And the original, honestly, with this beat, I'm like, no one else should rap on it. And I'm talking about everyone. It could be
mhm.
mainstream. It could be, I want to hear no one else rap on that beat. 50 Cent killed that beat. So it's like, yeah, that one sold. It's buried. It's underground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
R.I.P. You know, he killed the beat. So it's like, yeah, sometimes you just shouldn't be rapping on other people's beats because not because you can't do a good job of it. Someone else is just they just completely did what they needed to do with it. And it's like, ah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's done. That's a wrap.
Next up is Swag for Dummies.
So we go from somebody else to swag for dummies. Now I'm like, okay, as soon as it comes in, I'm like, all right, this beat suits Charles better. This is something that I kind of expected more. I'm like, okay, you okay. He does a little singing in the beginning, you know what I mean, a little humming and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, I see where he's going with this. And I feel like it works better for this song. It's like the laid back beat, reserve. Charles, you know, especially in this era, that's what he's doing. He's doing like more of a relaxed, reserved, laid back flow, and you know, just trying to be clever. He goes about the relationship route and also talks about like I guess the failed deal with Interscope and kind of explaining that to people. You know, when he sings on this song, I'm like, this works because I feel
Mhm.
like it's fitting the tempo. You hear the song, it has like that I'm about to go on a car ride or whatever, and like we really oh you have hair. I just got a haircut, but you know you have the wind blowing in your hair and all that, whatever. You
Yeah.
might just be pondering and thinking, just like yeah, man. So I don't know what me and her where we're at right now in this relationship, but you know I guess I'll figure it out, or just I'll figure out my situation when I figure it out. Um, one thing I did notice in the third verse, he mentions about going to a dive bar. And I thought about The Bite because he had that the greatest drinking song, whatever it's called.
Hmm.
And I noticed we talked about Charles minding his business and whatnot. I noticed in certain songs, I guess maybe Charles didn't want to speak too much about like doing drugs. So his thing that he started doing was um I'm gonna go to a dive bar or I'm gonna go to a bar and just, you know, have a
Hmm.
drink or two. Like I noticed that in some of his songs within this era was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a loner. I'm gonna just go to the bar and just, you know, kind of think about it. That was like his go-to. And I'm like, I don't mind it because obviously, you know, with me, I go out and I've had my moments in history with that. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to put that in every song. It's the same thing with minding my business. Like
Yeah.
how the hell are you going to a dive bar every third verse of every song? You know what I mean? So it's like he's tapered it off well. So, but this song I definitely like a lot more than the first one. I do like this song, so I vibe with it.
Yeah, I was a fan of this one. Interesting point about the dive bar portion. Because even as longtime Star Chasers, drinking never was really a thing in Charles's music. Like, not to say he didn't drink, but like more of the stuff is, the drugs that he used to do or whatever. And so again, like you say, I think it's just it's a it's a version of like a censored track on the old BET songs or movies where it's like, let's remove drugs and let's just put dive bar or, minding my business is one. Another one that's going to be that I'm going to bring up later is it's like he wants to cuss, so he chooses a different form of cussing or a different word that he uses like consistently. And I just noticed it based on this tape, and he does it around a lot during this era. But I'll get to it in a minute. But this song's good. I like I said, the singing's a lot better on here. It feels more natural, feels less forced. Um, I think it's the perfect type of beat for him too. I think that slow, smooth Cali type of situation is kind of his go-to or whatever. At least when it comes to West Coast beats. This is solid. This is a solid song for sure, especially compared to the first one.
Another thing I want to say is since this isn't like Charles's production, I think one thing we'll speak about later, but like it's going to be very, no pun intended, instrumental for Charles to make sure whatever beats he's going to be rapping on, like
Mhm.
that they are going to suit him well because it's a
Mhm.
lot easier when you're like, okay, I'm making my beats, I'm going to chop them and then sample them and put them however I want because like okay, it's tailor made for you. You know exactly how to make your beats and how you want to. But now when you're rapping on someone else's production, it's a third element where it's like okay, how do I really feel about this song? How do I feel about this beat? And how am I going to compose this? And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to mention that real quick.
Um, Follows up with no synonyms.
That is correct. No synonyms.
No
Um,
synonyms.
you know what the crazy thing is? I know he said that all in the beginning, but in my head, I'm like, I didn't like write any of the notes down, but I'm like, what if he actually did have synonyms in the song? And I could be like, you lied. You lied. There's actually synonyms in the first verse, but in the 14th bar, and I'm like, nah, but I didn't really I paid attention more to the music and the vibe and the feel.
Yeah.
Um with this song, I remember it coming in and I was thinking about I can't remember the name of the song, but it reminded me of the Black Lava Lamp because it's like the same sample, I guess. So like I think it was like She's So High. So it was like the other song that like kind of was supposed to be like She's So High.
Yeah.
And then I remember being like, okay, this sounds familiar, but I'm like, it's just because it's the same sample or whatever. I'm
Okay.
like, okay. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna have to use your technique because when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I like what he did with that version of She's So High, whatever you want to call it, on the Black Lava
Hmm.
Lamp. With this beat, I'm like, listen, I don't know who the beat was for, but I'm not a fan of it. Like, and that's like the nail in the coffin for certain songs. Like, if you just don't like the beat at all, it's just like it doesn't matter what you say on there.
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like a certain sound Dr. Dre was going for that just shouldn't be used for anyone. When I listen to it in the car, I listen to it, in my earbuds and whatnot, and I'm like, is this supposed to be like a dance track? You know what I mean? Is it supposed to be like just like just like a high energy song or whatever? I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't know what the original song is. I'd have to hear it. But in my head, I'm like, I just don't think that Charles like fit that beat well. Kind of like a suit. Like the suit was made for someone else, and then Charles decided to wear it, and it just didn't go that well. Now, to give Charles some props, he did step it up, and he brought some extra energy to the song. I could tell like in his verses, and he's trying to match it. Um, wasn't enough, just not a good combo, just like a bad mix. I would say like, we always talk about wrestlers. When people do those dream matches, it's like, okay, like I look at it like that where, oh, Dr. Dre and Charles Hampton, you put them together on a song and then you ended up getting this. And it's like, oh, well, I've heard their separate stuff and this should have been a good combo together. Like this should
Right.
have easily been like, I don't know how that didn't go that well, but that's just what I feel like. That beat just wasn't a beat Charles should have rapped on because I his verses were decent, but I'm like, it just didn't wasn't a good combo. And the hook, eh, I could have did without that hook. But yeah, just this is more of a clashing of styles. So similar to AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. How the fuck did they not have a good match in WWE? Only thing that was great about that was Shinsuke going to heel and just doing the nut punch. 'Cause I found that funny. Other than that, it was stupid. But
Well, I mean, we all know why it didn't go well because WWE wouldn't loosen the reins of the way they do things. They should have let them go all New Japan style, just let them rock, and it would have been fine. Um, but that's another story for another day. I wasn't a fan of this song. The beat is does a lot of that. Is a reason for a lot of that. It reminds me of what was that song that came out? It played a lot in college. It was a Timbaland song though.
it was just like I want to say that album was called like Shock Value, and it was like when he was doing like a little bit more of the
Popish type shit.
like the pop sound, like that song he had with Carrie Hilson, the way I are or whatever, like
Is
like
that the one? Dun, 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 dun. I hated that song. Oh my God.
The
Oh my God,
I ain't
bro.
got no visa. That
Bro,
song.
I
The,
hated that
the,
song. So,
the way I are. The way I are.
and this kind of what that reminds me of. And just that weird time in history where everybody wanted to do this weird synthy pop type of like loud and it's like, bro, like why are we doing this? In school, like it makes sense because like you want the girls to dance or whatever, and that's fine. That's really all you're looking for. But then when you actually have the time to sit back and you start listening to it, like you hear it in your head, like this shit was ass, and that's kind of what I was with this beat. This really doesn't have much to do about Charles except for like the hook and the singing, but because I think he brought, actually, I think he brought it as far as the energy that he was supposed to, but like I don't know. I just never been high on Charles on these type of beats. Like it's a mixed bag. I'll say that. I think that's what it is. It's a mixed bag. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's like, I could do without this. And this is probably in the latter category for me.
Yeah, I understand that. It's one of those things where, and we get it because like when artists they do like a pop song or a pop feature, it's like, I'm doing this to pay the bills. Like I'm doing this to
Hmm.
appease the folks at the company, And
Yeah,
then, like I said, sometimes it works out well, sometimes it might not work out well, but it works for the intended audience. Where it's like,
yeah,
hey, the urban audience hates this, but everybody over there in top 40, they love this, they're eating it up. So it's like,
hmm,
yeah, y'all know this is for them. So listen, please don't knock it against me. Just skip the song and we'll go back to the regular programming. But other times then it's worse when it doesn't work, where everyone, is like, it's not for me. Then it's like
yeah,
I crossed over and then it didn't work well. So now I'm getting shit from both sides. I'm getting shit from a regular fan base and then this new fan base I'm trying to build. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. But we've also talked about how like there were records that Charles could have done that with that are way more palatable. That and they just never capitalize on it. But you know. Follow up that with a curse.
How about you start? Let me know how you feel about a curse. I've started the first three.
I like this one. I thought it was a good record. I think, it's following this up and down type of situation. So we're back onto a song that I actually liked. Um, Again, it tones things down with the beat and it gets back into a level in which Charles is good at. And it's another one where it's like the singing, it's fine. It's not, it's nothing great. Again, this is where I start to pine for some variety as far as my hooks. It's like, oh, another singing hook. That's okay. That's fine. Um, but it's not as bad as the first and third song on here. I think he does some decent rapping on here. Um, yeah, again, compared to the previous track, it's a good track. I think I like it not as much as Swag for Dummies, but it's still better than the other two tracks. So I'm not mad at this one. How about you? What did you feel about this one?
Before I answer that,
Hmm.
this made me think about it. So let's say if we're talking about, oh, number two is a really good song, and number four is a good song. I wonder how much do we like these songs because we like them? And I'm pretty sure it's more because we like them, but sometimes you might end up liking a song more because it's like it might be sandwiched in between other songs you don't like as much. So then you might be pining to be like, oh, you know what? I can't wait to get the track two. Can't wait to get the track four. And then you're like, all right, but I think it's more because we actually like them more than the others, not because, oh, I just only like it because it's between these songs I don't like as much. All right, so with the curse, classic sound from Dre. I like it. And I'm like, okay, okay, this is what I expect from Dre. And I guess in the certain audience we're in. Um, Charles starts speaking about Republic, paying him and obviously him being signed, but maybe not everyone understanding like what he's doing or what he's going for, the vision he has. Of course, it's been unclear, and he might be trying to situate that, but at the same time, it's still up in the air because we're just like, what is he doing? And then other people are like, who is this guy? Hook's okay. Uh, the one thing that I was a little I guess confused by is
Hmm.
because on the hook he's talking about wanting to steal someone's girl, like, oh, I want to be your boyfriend because I don't want to be the carbon copy and all that. Then in the second verse, then he's apologizing for cheating, and then I'm like, wait a minute, like you're not the one cheating, you know? I'm like, it's if she is entertaining someone else, she's being the cheater, not you. But then that could be more of, oh, Charles has a girl on his side. So she might have called him in the act, maybe texting a girl or, yo, why are you calling Domino's like 20 times a day? That type of deal.
Their
But then,
cheesy bread is fantastic.
hey, listen, it is what it is. Sometimes the bread is cheesy. Sometimes the bread is cheesy. It's that damn good. Hey, why y'all tell me this cheese had so much bread on it? Or how much bread this cheese had? No, anyway. Uh, you remember that from Chappelle Show where was
Tough
it
Bell Show, yeah.
yeah, he's like, why don't tell him the cheese is good. Hey, why y'all tell me the cheese is good? He had to slap Charles had to slap someone because the cheesy bread was so cheesy. And y'all
That's a
didn't
fact.
tell him. You want to tell him. See, that's y'all's fault. That's y'all's fault for not telling him. So um, no, but then, like I said, he's apologizing for cheating. So let's say if the situation was, oh well, I had a girl on my side or whatever, and then she caught me, kind of talking to someone else. Is like, well, you didn't explain that well in the first verse or the hook. You didn't even
Mm,
talk about that. So that becomes a thing of like, okay, song structure. You're talking about this deal you have, and people maybe not. Some people might be believing in you, other people aren't believing in you. Then you just start talking about, oh yeah, I want to be your boyfriend, da 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 da. Unless once again he's talking about music,
right.
unless it's music. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to be doing songs like this, like that's the song structure. You got to set that up. So like, and I'm not saying you got to like you have to be like, oh, I gotta talk to y'all like you're 6 years old. But like when you're making a song about something, it just has to flow. It has to flow, and you put that stuff together. From bar one to bar 16 or whatever the case is. Um, and then in the third verse, Charles is just bragging about his skills, his styles, and then he had some random shout outs he did to people that he's known throughout the years. And this, in case I haven't made it clear, this is what I mean by like songs having no focus. When we talked about songs when he wasn't signed to Republic or Interscope, when
Mm,
he's freestyling or rapping off the top of his head or writing it down in his head. It's like, yeah, you have a random hook and then you have three random verses. Like I just said, first verse, you're talking about, okay, Republic and people not believing in you. Second verse is about, you were cheating. Third verse, you're just, basically talking shit. And then
hmm
the hook's about, oh, I want to be your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Is this a love song, relationship song? Is this a shit talking song? Like this song has no identity because you're not sticking to. I don't want to say you have to stick to one topic only in a song, but when this song is called a curse, what's the curse?
Yeah.
The curse of music, the curse of wanting to be faithful, be in a relationship, but you're not that type of dude because Charles has talked about that in his history of being, hey, I can't be a one woman man type of deal, but it's like it's one of those things where like this song, it's like it's okay. But like I said, no, that's what I mean by no focus. You're talking about literally any and everything under the song in let's say 3 to 4 minutes. And it's like I I'm not gonna say I would, but I feel like the audience would appreciate songs more. Like if the song's about this and there's gonna be a certain topic, then narrow it down to be like, okay, we're talking
Mhm.
about this and this. And if it has to have something else is talking about that, relate it in there and make it make sense. Otherwise, just rapping about anything on a song, that's what I mean by, oh, you're just rapping. He's just rapping to rap. But
Mhm.
songs, eh.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the time period where that part of the music kind of suffers because it's like I think again we talk about how we kind of fell in love with Charles being able to weave stories in and out and kind of even if he's making a concept tape or a concept song, like you said, if this is about music, back there was songs in his catalog where it's like I know he's talking about music. There's no way I can misinterpret that. Whereas this one, it's like you said, we're unable to clearly identify what the song is about because you've given us three different verses about three different things with a hook that doesn't match nearly any of them. So that's kind of I understand that. I think what you're saying as far as like and do I like the song versus do I like it because it follows something that's kind of rough. I think there's maybe a little bit of sprinkle into that because it's like, especially maybe on like your second listen, right? Because like I know I probably like this one. I'm trying to get this third and first one a try again, and I'm going like, oh, still not good. So you get there, and it's like, oh, at least it's something familiar to me that I think I like or whatever. So it's a possibility, man. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I try to go in after like a first or second listen, I'll shuffle it just to kind of not have that same pattern. That way I can see is it the song or is it the way that it's sequenced? Sometimes just to see if to confirm my thoughts. Um, Number five is the Devil. Wait, there we go. Devil and Mr. Hamilton. Um, I like the beat on here. This is another one of those classic, Dre West Coast beats. I think the verses are good. This one to me doesn't reach that next tier because of the hook. Because again, I'm confused. I was listening, I was like, okay, okay. And then he says, oh, he say, but he wants to be with, I forgot what the hook, but he basically says, I'm it's damned her because I am her. I think I can't you
Yeah,
got the hook probably
yeah.
right
Well,
written down.
I don't have it in my head, but yeah, that's how the hook ends because he's saying he wonders what people sees and talking about the bride, but the bride is me, or yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where like he's talking about a bride being there, and then oh, I am the bride, and it's like oh, okay, and then you go ahead with your review.
So if we take it like that, okay, cool. So the devil is clearly the groom, or whatever we know. I think it's a way that for him to kind of sneak that type of talk inside of his raps while he's still on Republic. Fine, I'm cool with that. Does the rest of the song match that? Do you get any type of indication of why that is? No. And so it's like again, it's like there's a foundation or there's bones here for a song that's gonna have a concept to it, but none of the pieces match. It's like trying to build a Lego house, but you got linking logs. Those aren't the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine. It can't go up another level because it's so disjointed for me.
Pretty much for me, same sentiment. Decent beat. It definitely, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, this is something I would expect from Dre. To be honest, this sounds like it should be for a certain artist. Like I said, Charles, I know he's picking some of these beats, or whatever, because he likes them. But I'm like, this beat isn't like which one was it? Not like No Synonyms. But I'm like, I can see other like West Coast artists, rapping on this. Personally, I imagine Snoop on this song. I could easily see Snoop.
Hmm.
So I'm like, you know what? This sounds more like even if it was like a Dr. Dre and Snoop song where it's like a throwaway, I'm like, I still could see it though.
Yeah.
Maybe like it could have been a bonus song or some type of song they did. But it's definitely a beat where I'm like, Charles is okay on it, but I definitely feel like it was meant for somebody else in particular. Um, Charles shows love to Dr. Dre and Quincy, people that are
Hmm.
really big pioneers in the music business and whatnot. And Charles talking about, how he would like to have that acclaim because it's eluded him his whole career and
Hmm.
wanting to be like in that upper echelon of names, even with people like we said earlier, Timbaland or Pharrell, those super producers or music producers that are well known not only in hip hop but just worldwide. You know what I mean? Like those
Yep.
names are well known. So Charles just talking about that, like you said with the hook. Uh, I say the hook in the second verse are kind of strange. So with the second verse, but with the second verse, he's talking about being with a woman and comparing it to being like in her purse and then her watch, and then it's the whole thing of like, oh well, I'm in her purse, and like it's like the wordplay that he's doing is like, oh, me being in her purse is, I'm assuming it's kind of like the innuendo of, hey, I'm in her purse, but you know what that means because I'm inside of it, meaning I'm
Right.
inside of her, and it's like if that's what he's going for, I get it. But it seemed like he was trying to overcomplicate it by be like, oh, I'm in a purse and I'm in her mind and I'm getting brain and then it change and all that. It's like that one person that like tries to make like I mean, you could technically when you're that one person that like can make anything into like a sexual joke or whatever,
Hmm.
like it sounded like he was trying to do that where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna make this a sexual thing, but I'm gonna go like so 4D with it. I'm not even gonna be in 3D. I'm gonna be in 4D with it. And it's just like
Mhm.
now you're just confusing yourself. Now you're just overdoing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, okay. So, like I said, he was talking about, Dre and Quincy on the first verse, talking about being in a woman's purse and, being with her. And it's like, okay. And then we said with the verse, I mean the hook, he's talking about, oh, this bride, but I am the bride. Like, damn it, I'm going through what she's going through. And then the third verse, then it's just him. It's legit him rapping. Him just like talking shit because he's like, "Oh damn, girl, you got all that ass." And it's like, what happened to wanting to be up where Dr. Dre and Quincy were? And then there's the bride, but you are the bride. But then you're talking about some girl having a fat ass or something like that. And it's just like legit. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Once again, you're doing the three verses are completely different and it's nothing to do with the hook. Um, and my thing, I'm like, who is Charles the bride of music? Because once again, if we're talking about, oh well, I'm the bride of music, or I'm not. Maybe it's hey, I'm not getting my wedding day, or my wedding day is with the devil. I'm about to dance with the devil, but it's like
Hmm.
I don't get anything like that. It's just, or was that one saying they uh was it
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
yeah, that type of deal where it's like I'm not getting the ring on my finger, the wedding ring or whatever, and it's like. Yeah, but you're not even talking about that. You're not even alluding to any of that. You're just,
Yeah.
like you said, in the hook, he might be dark and menacing to kind of talk about some dark stuff, but he's doing it in the Republic way so he doesn't get caught. But it's like you're literally just rapping about three different verses. And like I
Hmm.
said, songs sound disjointed, and it's like, it just sounds like you're rapping on these songs, just
Yeah.
so once again, for me, I'm like, the verses aren't necessarily bad. If you're just looking at the verses, he's spitting, he's saying some stuff, but it's like, but you're just rapping. You're just rapping on the songs, dude. So
Yeah. He follows that up with manual labor. Um, First and foremost, this one's a better song. I think this is a decent song. Um, we're still doing the singing. We're not gonna escape that. Um, I like this record. Again, this tape is very much 2016 Charles, so you know how he's gonna sound as far as the rapping or whatever. It's gonna sound very there's gonna be very few differentialities. It sounds crazy, but it's gonna sound the same. Um, similar similar concepts. You're not gonna go too far left or right or whatever, right? The only thing I want to bring up about this song is have you noticed that during this time that he really, really loves the phrase "God damn it," like a lot, like a lot. It didn't hit me until I listened today. I was like, yo, I feel like this era, like instead of like cussing like more frequently, like Charles can get flagrant sometimes. So it's just like instead of whatever word he would use or whatever phrase he would use, he just replaced that with "God damn it." I think that was just an interesting thing. So, but as the song is okay overall.
I know what you mean by that because I've kind of noticed it. I never actually like pointed it out. But it's funny you say he would get flagrant. He's like Draymond Green back. He could get flagrant like to the point where hey man, you about to hey man, you doing too much.
Yeah. Hey, you doing a lot, big dog.
Technicals and flagrants. But yeah, with this one thing I noticed with this be you know what, another thing too. I noticed he doesn't always do it in the songs, but it'd be in the freestyles around this era. He would always talking about kicking ass. I,
Hmm.
it's certain things where like you said, it's him trying to refrain from saying something. So he would be like, well, I'm kicking ass and taking names. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
back in the game, stay in my lane, minding my business. Who is that? Like it's stuff like that. Where I'm like, yeah, like, but it's like, bro, like your mind is so expansive, whatever. It's like this shouldn't be difficult for you, and it's not difficult for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I guess with him, it's like it's easier or it's probably better for him to lean on those type of things than even risk it. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where it's funny because we talk about the him going to the dive bar. It's one of those deals where let's say if you're someone that's like, hey man, um, I can't just have one or two drinks. It's like, you know what? Don't go to the bar then. It's one of those things where some people have to set those like standards for themselves. Like, yo, I'm
Yeah.
just not going because if I go, I'm not gonna have one or two drinks. I know I'm gonna black out no D. So,
Yeah.
but back to the song. For manual labor. I noticed that a lot of these beats have that piano influence. Like you hear a lot of piano in there. Of course, it's Dre, you know.
Hmm.
But that's not necessarily a problem. Like I said before, Charles has to match the song. I think this song works in the situation. The hook's simple, you know. He's talking about he does it, goddamn it, you know. The verses are good. It kind of has that storytelling feeling to it. So I'm like, okay, this works a little better. So I still feel like there's like maybe a little bit of something. I don't know what that je ne sais quoi, something missing a little bit in the song,
Hmm.
but it's not to the point where it like ruins it. It's one of those things where the beat, of course, Dr. Dre is masterful, so he's gonna, you know, he's gonna change up the beat. It's not gonna just be a static beat.
Yeah.
Charles, you know, did his part, whatever. I think overall, this is like, it's a cool song. It's cool.
Um, if I had to take a guess, I think one of these next two songs will be one or both of our favorite songs of the tape. It follows up with Hard Work, I believe is the next track.
So I'll be honest, I didn't even really think about what would be like my favorite song on here. I'm gonna just say that's gonna be out. That's gonna be I'm not gonna say what my favorite song is on here. Like I've
Okay.
heard this tape a couple of times, but I'm still trying to figure that out, you know.
Okay.
Maybe in the comments, what I'll do is like when this episode comes out, I might be like, you know what, I decided. But if not, you
Got
know,
it.
see a comment from me, then it's like maybe I'm not ready to pick yet. But with hard
Okay.
work, I can tell you easily, this beat reminds me of like an older beat from Dre, something from like 2004, 2006 era.
Hmm.
And for some reason, like, and this is not something I try to do on purpose, but once Charles like made it known on almost every song, he'd be like Dr. Dre, shout out Dre. You know, he definitely, and the thing is, I respect that because he wants to make sure people wouldn't be like, hey, you know, Charles made this beat. Like, no, 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 I didn't make it. I'm always going to give my props out and my respect to whoever that did make it. Charles has always done that since like day one. If he didn't make the beat, he'll definitely do a shout out to whoever made it. But um, I don't know why when I hear this beat, it's not like I try to do this on purpose, but since Charles made it such a thing to be like, hey, Dr. Dre made this beat, I'm like, who does this sound like this beat would belong to, or someone that would fit on this beat? I know they have a rocky relationship, and it's more of a one-sided rockiness because this guy is a fucking child. The game. This sounds like something I could easily hear the game on back on his first album or something like that. Um, but it's crazy too because you know, people like the game, Kanye and Charles, they all have something in common because they're erratic in their moods and whatnot. And they go
Yeah.
off the hinges, you know. So maybe them doing that freestyle, whatever, it makes sense because we didn't know it at the time, but all of them are, you know, all of them are kind of crazy. But
They were all putting in their powers at once.
yeah, so I'll say this: the flow on this first verse is great. It's what I'm looking for. Charles being creative and matching the tone as if the beat was made for him. Because that's my thing. Like when you're rapping on someone else's beat and the beat's not made for you, I want you to make the track yours. Act like it's yours. You know, just don't.
Mhm.
I don't want it being like yeah, well, it's cool, but I know it belongs to someone else. I want it
Got
to.
it.
I want it to, even if I know the original song, I want it to be like, yeah, this is the remix or this is my version that I'd rather listen to. So um, but I like what he was doing for it. The hook is in, you know, but he's hard at work, so I see what he was going for. Because like what he's talking about in the hook, just like whenever y'all see him, he's hard at work. Like he's busy. So overall song's okay. But I think he did a good job. Also, if I'm correct, want to say this is the one of the few times he only did two verses. Because what we were talking about earlier, Charles, what I noticed, he kept doing like three verses. That's been his standard sound. But I think that's another thing that hinders some of his music sometimes because it just sounds like he has like some type of idea of what he wants to do with these songs, but he's so goddamn determined that he has to do the three verses. So the third verse always just ends up being, yeah, random third verse time. Yep. Remember Mario Party? Chance time. That's what Charles does on the third verse.
Don't bring that bullshit up. Most of my losses in Mario Party are due to some bullshit chance time. Oh, chance time. Oh, you had all those stars you got. Pass them to the person who's been losing all fucking game. I hate that, bro. That is one of my least favorite things. To me, that's worse than the blue shell in Mario Kart, bro. I promise you.
I feel you. I feel you. Literally just, hey, I had 7 stars and I worked for this. Oh, now you have none. And oh, don't let there be the at the end of the game, the little bonus thing. Hey, we're gonna give us some bonus stars or whatever. And then guess what? That person that took your 7 stars, then they got like 3 extra ones. So they infinitely won. Somehow they won with 10. It's like, oh man, I did so great. It's like you got fucking lucky. Shut
Bro, they
up.
taking pictures of it like, yeah, I got 10 stars today. Bitch, you didn't do anything. You did nothing. I did all that. That's my work.
Hard
Anywho,
at work. You were hard at work.
I was very hard at work most times. Women, children, I don't care. Everybody can get this work. Anywho, yes, hard work is a very good record. I think it's interesting that, he follows a track called Manual Labor with hard work. Just interesting. Don't know if that means anything, but to me, if I had to choose a favorite song on here, this would be it. And maybe it is because it's only two verses, because I think they're two of the stronger verses on the tape. Um, the Again, the hook is what it is. A rapid hook would have been nice at any point. This probably been the one, but I think it's a good one. I think it's very easy to follow, and at least with the song, it makes sense. It's everything's still kind of focused on here, whatever. So I think it's a good record. I'll say that. I don't know if it's something I would playlist, but if I heard it, I wouldn't be mad. It wouldn't be like, oh, let me skip. It's okay.
Got you. Understand. Sorry, we went on that tangent about Mario Party.
No, it's okay, man. It's fine. It's just sometimes I just remember when I've been screwed over. Um, it's the Mario Party screw job.
Hey, listen, Mario Party didn't screw you over. You screwed you over.
Yeah, right. We end the tape with the aptly titled "When Razor Met Wrist."
So we finally get to a point where I would like to say, okay, we came full circle, I guess. That didn't sound good. That didn't sound great because I just thought about it. Coming full circle on
That's kind of crazy.
yeah, very crazy. And wouldn't work out for you well. Real quick, TW trigger warning. I'm gonna say this right now because I had this at the end of the review, but I'm saying it now. This song is not for those who don't want to hear about self-harm. So I think this is the cleanest way. God, yikes. Yeah, this is gonna be the cleanest way Charles can get away with a song like this on Republic, and it
Hmm.
you know what he's talking about because he's very descriptive, but it's not so descriptive to the point where he's like getting too detailed about it. But
Yeah.
uh the song is exactly the title is exactly what the song's about. Okay, so here's my thing, right? I'm gonna say this now. Notice how on this song, when Razor Met Wrist, you hear what Charles is talking about. He's telling a story basically about self-harm. And
Hmm.
at one point, he's actually talking to the razor and talking to his wrists and being like, oh, and then he does the thing.
Hmm.
So you notice how it's clear and concise. So here's my thing. Why can't he do that on other songs?
Yeah.
So notice how, oh, I want to make a song about, carving or, doing this. Easily goes through a whole story of the maybe the emotion, the thoughts, and then end up doing it. And it's like from bar one to bar 16, verse one to verse two, whatever. It's like, yo, he literally just tells the story of it. But with these other songs, like I said, somehow he's not telling a real story. It's him with a random hook and then with 3 random verses. So I'll say this. When you're like, for example, what you did on this song when Razor Met Risk, the way you tell that story, do that with other songs. Don't make random verses. Whatever the title of the song is and or the hook is, okay, keep that there and then tell the story or
Hmm.
make it make sense. Don't just do 3 random verses. If you have to cut it down to 2, you might have to start cutting it down to 2 because like I said, that third verse you just get a little crazy with it and start talking about other stuff.
Yeah.
The beat's dope, and long story short, like I said, Charles did pretty well with it. um he does get dark with the lyrics, but like I said, he doesn't overdo it. The hook is very descriptive. And like I said, like he just takes the song and says, hey, I'm gonna make a song about you know what, and then actually does it and details it and tells a story about it
Hmm.
and doesn't do 3 random verses. So that's my opinion on it. TW, it's a good song structure wise, where he's like going
Yeah.
off that narrative, but not going to be for everyone. I'll say that.
Yeah, if you're not in the greatest state of mind, maybe let's skip this one. I would say that if you are teetering on that edge, um, just skip it. You don't. It's not the best song to listen to. As far as the song goes, again, you nailed it right on the head. And what I've noticed is that on a lot of these tapes, especially the later tapes, it's almost like he reserves that last song for like, hey, this is what I could have did the entire tape, but here you go, right? I feel like that happens a lot where it's like, damn, he had a concept, he put it together, it was structured, perfectly. And even if we don't necessarily have high points on or high marks about it, it still structurally makes sense, and that's fine because the previous songs it's just like, oh, a bunch of dope raps, but they don't connect as a song. They feel more like freestyles versus actual songs. I think the last two songs are a decent way to end the tape. I think ending it with the self-titled track is smart. Um, I think it's I think it's a decent song. Again, the subject matter isn't for me necessarily, but the concept of being able to, you're telling the story, you're talking about, the razor, meat, and wrist, et cetera, is a very, I think that's a dope way to attack that type of situation. And he's made songs or at least allusions to that same act in other songs that, again, like we said, are very much more graphic. But this was kind of like it's like open the door, peek inside. This is how it could get. Close the door back or whatever. But I think it's a decent way to end the tape. But again, like we said, it's not gonna be for everybody. So,
Yeah, definitely. I would say the equivalent to that is Charles on this song. It's like him doing the rated T for teen version where there might be mild
yeah.
violence, reference or whatever,
Hmm.
but nothing crazy. It's not going to be immature. So,
Yeah.
if you're a certain age, it's like, yeah, you can check this out because it might have a little bit of something on there, but you don't have to worry about it too much because you're definitely way mature enough to handle it versus like the rated R movies or whatever the case is, or the PG-13 movies, shows, and all that. So it's like, yeah, this is a little mild, but nothing as dark as he's done before, or the adults only, the triple X movies and stuff like that.
Or the very rare NC-17s. Remember those?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no hot coffee mod in this.
No, 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 no. And eventually, when y'all get GTA 6, maybe y'all have real sex in there in 2030. Anyway, we're going. We just wrapped up this thing. Do you have anything before they do this review?
Yeah, sure. One thing I will say, and this is not me being funny or whatever, but like we said earlier, with this tape being called "When Razor Met Wrist," if anyone is feeling like that type of way, please understand that we know life isn't perfect. There's stuff that we all go through or whatever, but self-harm is never the answer. I know it sounds cheesy, but please make sure that you have people that are in your corner. You have maybe even a therapist or someone that you can vent to, talk to about that type of stuff, whatever. Because I've had friends that have done that type of stuff, whatever, and I was one of those people that they would want to talk to or vent to, and I wasn't always successful in stopping that type of stuff.
Hmm.
So listen, end of the day, make sure you're okay. Get a journal, get something that you can confide in or someone you can confide in when you have those type of thoughts and feelings, because um that those type of feelings don't have to last forever, and life doesn't have to be as harsh as it seems. There's always going to be a new day, there's always going to be a new tomorrow. So please just be careful. All right. Not sure who that goes for, but I just want to extend that message out to everyone.
Yeah, and if you don't have like a friend or you don't feel comfortable journaling and stuff like that, there are like Google or phone numbers that you can call. I think it's 988 that kind of helps with that kind of stuff. So if you really need emergency type of like talking to, call that number and talk to somebody, man. It's really important. Life is tough, but don't let it beat you down and take you out. So um we just reviewed When Razor Met Wrist in 2025. Let us know what you're going to give it as far as a review, any pros and cons, and the character rating you're going to give it today, Mike.
All right, so you mentioned it a bit. Charles is rapping on Dr. Dre beats, and I'm going to talk about it now. Instantly, too much singing, way too much singing. I know we talked about it before on other projects where it's just like, oh yeah, he's singing on here and it's not really the greatest and whatnot. But this is like one of the first times, at least for us, on an episode where Charles is singing every song. It's a version of singing. Some songs aren't as much singing. It might be more of a him harmonizing, vocalizing, or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's like, nah, you're singing on every hook. Too much singing, and he's depending on too much singing. I think the problem is with Charles. You know when he came out in 2008, um, him and a few other artists, they could have been labeled as emo rap or emotional rappers, whatever. And then there's that certain like hybrid of like, hey, I'm a rapper, but I can also sing a tune, so I can kind of do like a back and forth. Back then, it was different, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? But now I feel like another thing that I realized, Charles, because not want to say he's stuck in his ways, but Charles likes to do things his way. So him maybe not adjusting to like the current climate or the climate of that time of 2016. So when you think of 2008 and then you go to 2016 and you look at like how those hybrid rappers or hybrid artists, musicians, oh,
Hmm.
I can rap and I can sing too, whatever, completely different, vastly different. So it's one of those things where like it's equivalent of like, oh, back then I did this or whatever. I was like, okay, well, the bar has been raised significantly, even with people that use the auto tune and all that type of stuff, whatever. It's like, no offense to Charles, like he doesn't compare to those like hybrid rappers that or singers or whoever of that time, and people can do it a lot better with a lot more conviction or convincing. Um, so I think he ended up being out of his league where he wanted to sing on every hook, and it's like some songs is better. Other songs, like you said, you should have just did you should have just did rapping. You should have just rapped. Um, so I think that's the one of the biggest issues. Too much singing and then uh too much force. Too much because he says that on some songs. Oh, I'm forcing it, or the guy would force. And I'm thinking about this now. Charles came out with this project, or this project in the bite, and also Loud and Wrong to kind of make put the fans at ease, like, hey, I'm still coming out with music. But when I hear this, it sounds forced. It sounds kind of rushed.
Hmm.
Um, is Charles just rapping on Dr. Dre beats and doing what he feels is best, and I don't think it came out the best way. I don't know whose idea this was, if it was just Charles alone or was this Republic too, where it's like, hey, we'll let you do this, and if they pick the songs out for him, or if Charles picked the songs out for him. But I put myself back in this time period, right? If I was really nervous, I remember being nervous, like, oh, is Charles actually going to come out with this album? Is he actually going to be able to have his debut finally?
Right.
When if I would have heard the bite back then, I would have been like, okay, I'm put at ease more because I'm hearing what he's doing on the bite, whatever. This is cool. I waited out a little bit longer. If I would have heard this back then, honestly, I would have been like, ah, it's not looking good. And
Yeah.
then imagine if I don't even know who Charles is. Like I don't have his history with him. I'm like,
Yeah.
this Charles Hamilton guy. I heard New York Rating. That's kind of cool. Let me hear what he's doing on this Razor Met Wrist.
Yeah.
I would have been disinterested and be like, you know what? I'm not worried about that album. I'm gonna go to the next artist.
Yeah.
So this project sounds forced. It sounds rushed. Like basically, like they just told him, hey, go make some music, put it together, and then put it out. And it sounds exactly like that. Charles being like, I don't know what to talk about, so I'm just gonna rap about some stuff. Oh, here you go. So it's just like
Yeah.
I could have did without this. Now I can't give a Robotnik because it's like so much of the point of the music is like unlistenable. Like he
Hmm.
has some verses on there. Some of the hooks are okay, but overall it just sounds rushed. It sounds like someone just told him to go in there and rap. And that's exactly what he did for half of it. Some of it's good, some of it needs some improvement. So I would give this a Mecha Sonic. It's one of those deals where there's stuff there and it's okay, but there's definitely better projects where I was like for example, The Bite is a better project. If I had to pick between those two, if this is Blockbuster, hey, you can only get one Charles Hamilton project, whatever. You got The Bite or you got Razor Met Wrist. Definitely taking The Bite. The Bite did a better job. It did Charles justice. Versus this project, I don't know what he was going for, but it didn't land well.
Yeah. The singing, obviously, my main thing is I don't mind. I don't mind the singing if there's some variety. There was just no variety on this tape as far as like hook wise. There was just no type of like rappy type of vibe. No, it was just everything just felt the same. This tape felt a lot like a card collector, right? And they got a new pack. And they opened the pack and they got the similar cards through the entire thing. There was some changes like, oh, I got a Squirtle, but then I got a Staryu, but then I got a Poliwag. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting all water type. There was very little type of differentiation because everything felt similar. Like there was very few instances where I'm like, okay, this is kind of different. This seems better. Um, I think it closes well. I just think it's a little bit too inconsistent as far as like song structure, what he's rapping about. Is it connecting with what you're actually saying in the hook? 'Cause I think like the hook is kind of like the it's the knot, right? It's like you have one side of the string or another side of the string. The hook's supposed to tie it together, the beat and the verses. The hook's supposed to tie it together, and it just never did often. I would also say that one of my tried and true efforts as far as like reviewing tapes is, have I heard something like this before? What can I compare this to? And when we listened to Climatic, I was like, this is the way to do rap over other people's beats. And I thought that was a very surprisingly good tape. I was like, wow, this is, you're taking basically preem type of beats and Nas beats, whatever, how you want to describe it, right? But you're still making it you, and you're still making it fresh. Like it feels new. It feels like a Charles Hamilton record. Whereas these feel like Dr. Dre beats that Charles Hamilton got a hold of and was like, let me just rap over it about something. And that's what it felt like through the entire time. Um, so for me, I'm in the same boat, Mecha Sonic for me, just because I know there's something better. There's something like this that I know he's done better, and to me that's Climatic. And another tape, Prodigal, is similar, very similar, rapping over like Lupe beats or whatever. But and maybe Charles and Dr. Dre beats just don't match. That could be another thing. Maybe that's something we're just not ready to admit yet. But maybe that's also the other thing. But yeah, I'm going back to Sonic with this one. Um, Not necessarily bad, but just I just know there's something better.
Respect, understand that. The last thing I will say is that, like we were saying earlier with some of the songs, it sounds like they're just random verses. And when the last song, when Razor Met Wrist, he's very, he tells the story. He's very detailed and all that type of stuff, whatever. And it's like, well, why couldn't you do that on everything else?
Yeah.
The one thing I know Charles sometimes when it comes to stuff like that, where you could ask him like, "Oh, well, why did you do this on this dark song, but on the other
Hmm.
songs you couldn't or didn't want to do it?" And I know sometimes he's like, "Oh, just because I could." You gotta stop doing that. You gotta stop doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, because I can do that. It's like that's why certain songs don't hit how they're supposed to. Just saying because I can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So
Right.
so that's the last thing I'll just say about that. Like that just be oh because I said so because I want to. It's like that's the type of attitude that won't get you far and the ventures that you want to go out and do. Just being like because whatever because who cares? People care and that type of stuff matters. So let's not do that. Let's do things that make more sense.
But let us know how you feel about When Razor Met Wrist Man. Is it a tape that you like going back to and listening to? What are your favorite junks? Let us know over on YouTube, StarCHaser Central. You can also follow us on Twitter, StarCH Central. You can also follow us on our individual pages. I'm at Stick Around 54, STIK Around 54 on Twitter and Instagram. Mike, where can they find you, buddy?
On Instagram, the Mike Jackson, THE Mike Jackson. I mean, for me, you might end up seeing me post some random videos of myself doing some random stuff on the weekend. So if you're interested in that, there you go. On Twitter, Mike D Jackson, Mike DEE Jackson. That's one D, two E's. Holla at me. Make sure you guys are following Charles on Twitter at Charles Hamilton. Make sure you are subscribed to him on his YouTube channel, The Talented Mr. Hamilton. As y'all know, And if you don't, he's pretty much still going live on Fridays, and sometimes he might go live on different days too. So if you want to see him in action live, making beats or freestyling, just trying to get some more fan engagement, follow him on there. So be subscribed to him. Hear the music. He dropped, what was it, like one or two other songs, like some newer songs recently.
Mhm.
So you guys get to hear some new music and some other things he's trying to do. So also, I would definitely implore you guys to check him out on his lives, because that's a way that if you're interested in hearing what he's doing, or you want to just have some questions for him, kind of figure out, hey, where's he going with this? Maybe give him some some feedback, because I feel like not only are we giving him feedback with this podcast, you guys should also be doing that too, because we're only two people. Like, you guys, encompass just more than what we're doing. So feel free to, let him know like how you feel about the music and all that. Last but not least, he has done a lot more blog entries since, so I feel more comfortable saying this. So, if you're not in tune, make sure you are checking out the blog, enterthehamilton.blogspot.com. Yeah, just catch up on his most recent blogs if you haven't been on there recently, because like he hasn't been always updating it, but he has recently. So check him out. There it is.
Yeah, man. Be sure to let us know what you want us to listen to soon. We reviewing some more tapes. If you have any different topics that you want us to do, similar to how we did like the Hamiltonization process ranking, let us know if you want us to do something like that again. With whatever you want to do, could be any type of thing. We will have an announcement soon as far as what we're gonna do for the top. Wow, for the 100th episode. Um, we're actually coming up on that, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, but it's another another situation where we will need your help, but we will have more information at another time. Mike, you have anything for the people before we head out?
Just the usual. Thank you guys for checking out another episode. Appreciate you. Of course, even with us, right? Because we can always improve our setup or our style of doing this podcast. We just want to make sure you guys are enjoying the episodes.
Hmm.
We usually have the usual star chasers and fans that say, hey, this is what I like about this episode, or this is what I like about this tape that you talked about. We did have someone recently that said, hey, can you check out this tape? It was chronometry. And it's like, hey, sorry to beat you to the punch, but that's one of our earlier episodes. So let's say if you are a newer fan or newer Star Chaser that just found this podcast, feel free to peruse around some of the previous episodes we've done. Because if there is a tape that you wanted to talk about, we might have talked about it already. And if we haven't, please leave a comment, say something. Because if you don't say anything, we might not get to your tape that you want until later. So just let us know, talk to us, let us know what's going on. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for another episode.
Yes, sir, man. And remember the most important rule of all: don't take my fucking stars. We're logging out of the StarCHaser Central podcast, man, where we always encourage you to follow your dreams.
And reach. Let me make sure I say this properly. And reach for the stars, but not for stick stars. Reach for the stars. Don't reach for stick stars. Reach for your own stars. Don't be like Boo, where you're stealing stars either. So reach for the stars. But yeah, if you reach for stick stars, I can't be held liable for what happens to you. That's all I'm saying. But you know, it is what it is.
Madness. You won't believe what Jimmy told me. You won't believe what Jimmy told me.